Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive.
Absolutely. Always ready to explore.
Today we're going to be taking a look at emotional intelligence.
Ooh, fascinating topic. I'm excited to delve in.
And we're going to be using a really cool mini personality test from the Spiritual Seek.
Oh, I love their stuff. Always thought-provoking.
Yeah, absolutely. So this test is going to give us a peek into our own emotional intelligence, or EI. We'll kind of dissect each statement and figure out what it really tells us about ourselves.
Sounds insightful. I'm curious to see what they've come up with.
All right, so the first statement from the Spiritual Seek says, I acknowledge my mistakes openly and take responsibility for my actions.
That's a powerful one right off the bat. It gets right to the heart of EI, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. So what does this tell us about someone's emotional intelligence?
Well, I'd say it points to a high level of self-awareness and accountability. Being able to admit when you're wrong. Not being afraid to say, hey, I messed up.
Right. Owning up to those mistakes.
Exactly. And it's interesting. Research actually shows that people who readily admit their mistakes are often seen as more, not less, competent.
Really? That's surprising. You'd think it would be the opposite.
Yeah, you'd think so, right? But it actually makes a lot of sense. It shows you're self-aware, you're honest, and you're committed to learning and growing.
Yeah, it's like you're saying, okay, I made a mistake, but I'm owning it and I'm going to learn from it.
Exactly. And that kind of attitude builds trust and respect.
I see what you mean. So can you give me an example of what this might look like in real life?
Sure. Imagine you accidentally gave a coworker the wrong deadline for a project, okay?
Uh-oh, big mistake.
Yeah, could be. Now, someone with high EI in this situation, they wouldn't try to shift the blame or make excuses.
You'd own it. Right?
Exactly. They'd apologize, explain the mistake, and then take steps to fix it.
Makes sense. So taking responsibility rather than avoiding it.
Absolutely. That's a key indicator of emotional intelligence.
Okay, let's move on to the next statement in the mini personality test. This one says, I empathize with others by putting myself in their shoes during difficult situations.
Ah, empathy. Another cornerstone of emotional intelligence.
I've always heard that phrase, walk a mile in someone else's shoes.
Oh, yeah, classic.
But what does it really mean to empathize with someone?
Well, it goes beyond just understanding someone's emotions. It's about actually feeling them yourself. Putting yourself in their position, trying to see the world from their perspective.
Yeah, stepping into their shoes, so to speak.
Right, and there's fascinating neuroscience behind this. You know about mirror neurons.
I've heard of them, but remind me.
Well, they basically fire in our brains when we see someone else experiencing an emotion. Like, if I see you feeling sad, my mirror neurons might fire as if I'm feeling sad too.
Wow, so our brains are actually wired for empathy.
Yeah, pretty cool, huh? It's like we're built for connection and understanding.
So how might someone with high EI show empathy in a real-life situation?
Let's say a friend is going through a job loss, right?
Tough situation.
Absolutely. Someone with high EI wouldn't just offer generic advice or platitudes. They would actually try to feel their friend's disappointment, frustration, maybe even fear. They'd listen without judgment and offer support that's specific to their friend's needs.
That makes a lot of sense. Really listening and understanding what that person's going through.
Exactly. That's true empathy in action.
Okay, on to statement number 3 from the Spiritual Seek. This one says, I seek to understand conflicts from multiple viewpoints before forming a judgment.
Now, this one speaks to open-mindedness and perspective-taking. Really valuable traits in today's world, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, especially in our current climate where it's so easy to get stuck in echo chambers.
Right. People with high EI, they don't jump to conclusions. They realize there's almost always more than one side to every story.
So they try to see the bigger picture.
Precisely. They actively seek out different viewpoints, listen to different perspectives, and then form their own opinion based on a more complete understanding.
Makes sense. It reminds me of that quote, seek first to understand, then to be understood.
Oh, I love that one. So true.
Can you give us an example of how this might play out in a conflict?
Sure. Imagine there's a disagreement at work. Maybe two colleagues are butting heads over a project.
It happens all the time.
Right. Now, someone with high EI wouldn't immediately take sides.
They'd stay neutral.
Well, more than that. They'd actively listen to each person involved, try to understand the root of the conflict, where the miscommunication or disagreement stems from, and then facilitate a constructive conversation.
So helping everyone feel heard and understood before trying to find a solution.
Exactly. That's how you navigate conflicts effectively.
Okay, fascinating. Ready for the next statement from the Spiritual Seek.
Hit me with it.
All right, this one says, I adapt my communication style to suit the emotional needs of different individuals.
Ooh, this is a good one. Speaks to the flexibility and adaptability that's so important in communication.
Yeah, no, I definitely communicate differently with my best friend than I do with, say, my grandmother.
Right. And that's a sign of emotional intelligence. People with high EI understand that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to communication.
It's about meeting people where they're at.
Exactly. They can read the room, assess the emotional needs of the other person, and then adjust their tone, their language, their body language even, to create a genuine connection.
So being mindful of how your communication is being received.
Absolutely. And being able to adapt accordingly.
I can see how that would make you a more effective communicator overall.
For sure. And it probably makes you more likable too.
Okay, we're on a roll. What's the next statement from the spiritual seek?
Let's see. I recognize the impact of nonverbal cues, such as body language and tone of voice.
So it's not just about the words we say,
Yeah,
but how we say them.
precisely. Nonverbal communication is huge, often even more powerful than what we say verbally.
You know, they say that like 90% of communication is nonverbal.
Something like that. It's definitely a big chunk. And people with high EI, they pick up on those subtle cues.
Like what kind of cues?
Well, it could be body language. You know, are they fidgeting? Are they making eye contact? What's their posture like?
Right.
And then there's tone of voice. Are they speaking quickly or slowly? Is their voice high or low? Are they using a sarcastic tone? All these things convey a lot of information.
So someone with high EI is paying attention to all of that.
Absolutely. They're really tuned in to the whole picture, both verbal and nonverbal, to understand what's really going on.
Okay, makes sense. And we've got one last statement in our mini personality test.
All right, what does it say?
This one says, I prioritize building trust in relationships by being reliable and consistent in my actions.
Trust. Such a fundamental element of any strong
You
relationship.
can't have a solid relationship without trust, right?
I'd say it's pretty impossible. And people with high EI, they get that. They understand that trust isn't just given, it's earned.
Through action.
Exactly. Through consistent actions, reliability, honesty, and follow-through.
So not just talking the talk, but walking the walk.
Right. Being someone others can depend on. Showing up when you say you will, keeping your promises. Being authentic and true to your word.
That's how you build lasting trust.
For sure. It's a key ingredient in any healthy relationship.
Wow, this has been a really eye-opening deep dive into emotional intelligence.
It's been fun, hasn't it?
Totally. So much to think about. We've covered self-awareness, empathy, open-mindedness, communication, trust, all these different facets of EI.
And remember, the spiritual seek suggests giving yourself a point for each of those statements that resonates with you. The more points, the higher your EI, according to their little test.
But it's not about getting a perfect score.
Exactly. It's not about being perfect. Emotional intelligence is a journey, a lifelong process of learning and growth. We can all work on strengthening our EI no matter where we're starting from.
I love that. So as you reflect on all these different aspects of emotional intelligence, think about this. What's one small step you can take this week to boost your own EI? Just one small step in the right direction.
Yeah, love that. It's about continuous improvement.
Absolutely. All right, that's it for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.
See ya.